Hey man, it's me, Kevin Smith, Silent Bob, and all those terrible Jay and Silent Bob type pictures, man. You're listening to Drop the Mic, the only podcast that I listen to that I'm not a part of. Every podcast I listen to, I usually talk on it, but not fucking Drop the Mic. That's where I'm like, let me hear what the boys have to say. And now, we drop the mic.
Never has a film moved so many and touched so deeply. United Artists is proud to present I Am Going to Get You, Sucker, a captivating story.
Yo, baby, hold it. That ain't it. It's I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. Yes. And it's the story of the brothers fight. Yes. Against Mr. Big. Yes, well.
Let's get that sucker.
It's about action, bravery.
I'm a soldier, man. I've been trained for combat.
Romance.
12 inches.
And danger.
If y'all step on my bunny, I'll kill both of you.
I'm gonna get you, sucker.
Welcome back to our Humble San Diego podcast. We are your hosts Wesley Swanson and Chris Pawlak, and this is episode 348, Taking It to the Man, where we will be discussing 1988's I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. But first, let's get warmed up, shall we? What's up, Chris? How are you? Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, as always. I'm good. You and I spoke off mic about how my day and how my night went. You and I hung out last night, which was cool.
Yep.
Got together. So that was awesome. That's something that's... You and I sometimes miss each other at the house. So it was cool to be able to go over there and see everyone and hang out. And give you the Christmas gift that I've been sitting on for almost 2 months.
Yes.
And now for a special news report. Brought to you by Drop the Mic.
News. Do you have anything?
I have a couple things. I'm sure that you've talked about Carl Weathers passing, as this was a few weeks ago.
We did.
But
do it again.
Shout out to Carl Weathers. You know some of his work in Rocky. He's fantastic in Rocky. In Predator, he's awesome in Predator. Every time I see Joel's brother Mark, he and I always do the handshake at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Dylan.
Action Jackson, another really fun, not great 80s movie, but a lot of fun 80s action movie. Happy Gilmore. He has a cameo in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. If you're watching, I think, the director's version, which might be the only version that's really available, or at least an extended version. The Mandalorian. I know that he was a cast member on The Mandalorian, though I haven't watched anything past the first episode, which was a couple of years ago now that I think about it. And shout out to Arrested Development. He's on a handful of episodes of Arrested Development. He is great on that show, and I've said it before, I will say it again. Strictly watch the first 3 seasons, the Fox seasons. You can skip the last 2 that were made for Netflix. They fucking suck. Watch the first 3. That show is brilliant. And just pretend that it ended after the end of the 3rd season.
Watch the first 3.
Absolutely. But he was really fucking funny on that, playing a heightened version of himself. So R.I.P. to Carl Weathers.
R.I.P. I think I wish he would have had been offered more work in his lifetime. I think he deserved more.
He was a good actor.
Yeah.
He's so good in those Rocky movies, especially the first one.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's cheesy, but Rocky 3 and 4 were movies that I watched the shit out of when I was a kid. And they're so much fun, and Weathers is great in those 2 as well as, the first 2.
Would you say that Rocky kind of helped you develop a love for those kind of sports biopics like that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, because my mom and dad really loved Rocky, so I watched that. They had that, and I would watch a lot of that. And then, obviously, growing up in the 80s, the 3rd and the 4th one came out when I was a kid, and just rewatched the shit out of those. A show I've recommended before, I believe you have as well, a show that we both love called This Fool.
Oh, yeah.
On Hulu. Got canceled, unfortunately. It only had 2 seasons. I highly recommend the show. It's so goddamn funny. Chris Estrada is so fucking funny in it. And a great supporting turn from Michael Imperioli as the guy who runs that I don't want to say charity, but the program, the outreach program. Such a funny show. So sad it got canceled. I highly recommend watching it if you haven't seen it.
I know they are shopping around to possibly get it saved.
That doesn't work all that often, but I really hope that someone picks it up. It's so funny, man.
Do we know why?
I don't remember why. It was just, streamers seem to do this from time to time where they'll cut a show that is pretty well regarded. I don't know if it just doesn't have enough views.
Yeah, like maybe like not enough people tuning in.
Yeah, which sucks. But it was well worth every moment I sat watching it. I want to watch it again because it was so funny. And even from the first season, the whole episode where they did that was kind of like the extended Austin Powers joke, and then ends on that visual joke of them trying to pull out of the space very, very slowly, doing like a 30-point turn. It was really fucking funny. I got such a kick out of that one.
Yeah, both of those seasons were gold.
Yeah.
So I hope somebody does pick it up because that would be a shame to lose. That's great quality.
Yeah.
And
lastly, a movie that we spoke about last year was one of our films. Apparently has a sequel in the works, and that's Repo Man. Alex Cox wants to do a sequel to Repo Man.
What?
Called Repo Man 2, The Wages of Beer. And obviously, Harry Dean Stanton is dead. Emilio Estevez is not going to be in it. Alex Cox is trying to get Kiowa Gordon in it, who is on a great show that, if you haven't seen it and haven't checked it out, called Dark Winds, that's on AMC with my man Zon McLarnon. Check that show out. It's really fucking good. He's a sheriff on a reservation. Kiowa Gordon is his deputy. But that's all the information I have, is that he wants to do a second Repo Man finally, 40 years later.
Did Emilio say no?
I don't know. I guess you would ask, but I think it's supposed to be like, it's going to pick up where the first movie leaves off.
Really?
So, obviously, you can't have him aged 40 years.
So they're going to do a Fury Road style sequel.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Something tells me it's probably not going to be nearly as good as Fury Road.
Do you... What are your true thoughts about this? Are you scared? Is it going to be like SLC Punk 2?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. And it's not going to be good. It can't be good. We spoke about the first one at length. Go back and listen to the show. But the first one is such like an 80s punk rock vibe to it, sci-fi, obviously. He's not going to be able to recapture that. Especially changing up the cast.
I think that he would have been better off at do a graphic novel or a book,
like he did with
already.
What was supposed to be the sequel at one point in time, and he just turned it into a graphic novel. Maybe do that. But who knows? At least there you can still have Harry Dean Stanton's character.
And now it's time for the weekly recommendations.
Did you see Joyride last year?
Joyride?
Yeah.
No.
With like Ashley Park and Stephanie Sue and Sherry Cola?
No, I heard about it though.
It's fucking funny.
It's good?
Yeah. I watched it. I had wanted to see it. It was one of the ones I missed. And got around to watching it maybe 2 weeks ago. Laughed my fucking ass off. It was really funny.
If I'm not mistaken, I think that was one my girlfriend Emma got screener tickets for, so she saw it before it came out, and she said that it was amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, a ton of laughs, some like real fucking like dirty stuff in it at some points that just had me fucking dying. And then when I was watching, I was like, wow, like last year was a pretty fucking solid year for like female-led comedies. It's a shame that, Barbie, as good as it was, kind of sucked up a lot of that air, but like Bottoms was fantastic. We obviously talked about it. Yep. It was, in our best of episode. And Joyride was fucking hilarious. So it was a solid year, and I wish that Joyride and Bottoms got a little bit more viewers. Oh, Poor Things. That was the other comedy I was thinking of. The other like female-led comedy I was thinking of.
Which I saw Poor Things.
Did you like Poor Things?
I did. I mean, of course, it's like super wild.
Yeah.
Which I knew going in, so I wasn't. That didn't really. Nothing shocked me, but I really dug what I saw.
Yeah.
And it like progressively gets more and more batshit. And there's some great kind of cameos that continuously pop up, and I'm not going to spoil them here on the show, but yeah, Poor Things is definitely one of the best films of last year, I think.
I liked it a lot, and despite what some people had to say about it, I thought it was pretty fucking funny, even if it was like kind of a weirdo funny.
I think that if you're not open-minded or you're not familiar with just subculture, and not that it has to do with subculture, but I think that subculturists are going to be more drawn to that for whatever reason, But the what's his name? Lathamos? How do you say
Yorgos Lanthimos?
Yes. All of his movies are like that.
Yeah.
They're not for everyone.
Not for everyone. I highly recommend The Favorite, though, because I love the hell out of The Favorite as well. And I was just listening to an old Unspooled episode where they were talking about Dogtooth.
I saw Dogtooth at Pacific Theaters.
That Gaslamp. I remember you and Susie watching that. And Susie talking about it.
Fucking weird movie, man. Maybe one of the weirdest movies I've ever went to go see. And like that I was like, take my money. I'm going to watch this.
Check out Poor Things. It's still playing. It's up for Academy Awards, so they'll probably stick around for a little bit longer. But really enjoyed that, as did you, from the sound of it. And great year for female-led comedies. Obviously Barbie, but Joyride, Bottoms, Poor Things, all really great as well. My second rec is a noir film from Carl Franklin. I think his debut film called One False Move, with the late, great Bill Paxton, Cinda Williams, Billy Bob Thornton, who co-wrote the script, and Michael Beach. Michael Beach and Thornton are killers in Los Angeles and go on the run. That they're headed through Texas, headed towards Arkansas, because that's where their partner in crime, Cinda Williams, is from. And Bill Paxton is like the small town sheriff in Arkansas, who's kind of out of his depth with what is coming his way. But it's such a good movie. I know that it really made a big splash when it debuted, I think in 92. And like that was kind of one of the first films where Billy Bob Thornton got put on the map. 91, excuse me. But I highly recommend that movie. It's a good little noir film. And some great performances in it. And you'd think like Billy Bob Thornton is like the scary guy in that duo of him and Michael Beach, but it's actually Michael Beach's quiet character is the one who's the most deadly. So definitely check that out. They have a great Criterion version of it that just got released not too long ago. Definitely check it out. And goddamn, what a tragic loss Bill Paxton passing away was, because he's so good and he's great in that movie. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Oh, dude, watch it. Watch it. They just replayed it like on Turner Classic Movies a couple weeks ago. So, or a month ago, whatever it was, and I rewatched it. Loved it. I'm probably going to pick up the Criterion version. So I want to make a correction to something I said, and that One False Move was not Carl Franklin's first movie, but the first couple movies that he did make, first 2 or 3 movies he did make, didn't really make a big impact. One False Move was the movie that really had put him on the map, and then a few years later does a fantastic movie that you and I may end up talking about at some point, is Devil in the Blue Dress. One of the best movies from 1995. Has a fantastic Denzel Washington and Don Cheadle performance. But One False Move was really the movie that kind of propelled him into a higher status. But it was not his first movie. So I want to correct that.
I don't know if you know this yet, but they just announced that A True Detective is renewed for season 5.
Cool. Is Issa Lopez gonna run the show again?
She's returning.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool. I haven't watched the 4th. I'm really excited to watch it. I know it just wrapped up. Was it last week?
Last week.
Okay. So I have yet to watch it. I'm in the middle of finishing something up right now, and then I'll jump into True Detective.
So that's my rec. True Detective Night Country was awesome. I have not seen the finale yet. I'm in the middle of it, I guess, so I haven't wrapped it up completely, but what I've seen is it's very good. It's
only 6 episodes. How many have you seen? Have you seen everything but the finale?
I am all the way up, and I started the finale, but I haven't finished it.
Okay.
Yes.
How does it stack up against any of the other seasons?
In my opinion, I think that it's holding its own.
Okay.
As like for the, going from was the first and the third.
Yeah.
It's pretty strong.
Okay.
Okay,
I know that the second one there's kind of a significant drop between the first and second seasons, but the third season rebounds pretty nicely.
Yes.
And Mahershala Ali and Stephen Dorff are really fucking good in that season. So I was wondering how Night Country stacked up against at least the first and the third seasons.
I'll be curious to hear your takes because, a lot of the fans seem to be very cut down the middle, whether they love it or they hate it. They think it's stupid. But I don't know if that's like incel behavior either.
Why? Because it was female-led? Give me a fucking break, man. People need to grow the fuck up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't be scared of, like, women. I don't know.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And now for the movie focus of the week.
I'm going to venture out of weekly recommendations and into our movie focus of the week, which is brought to you by our own Chris Pawlak over here. It's I'm Gonna Get You Sucka from 1988. It's rated R. It's a comedy. It runs at 1 hour and 28 minutes, and it's got a 62 currently on Rotten.
That's solid. I wish that was a bit higher, but it didn't get a lot of love from critics.
So it is pretty high from what it could be.
Probably, yeah.
And probably one of the more higher rated parody movies.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Because parody movies just got fucking lazy in the early 2000s.
Which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah, we will, unfortunately.
So it was written and directed by Keenan Ivory Wayans, starring Jim Brown, Isaac Hayes, Bernie Casey, Antonio Fargas,
Janet
Dubois, John Vernon, Kadeem Hardison, John Witherspoon, Chris Rock, Clarence Williams III, Robin Harris, and of course, the Wayans brothers.
Yes.
So, this film would become Keenan Ivory Wayans' directorial debut, using blaxploitation as inspiration and gaining traction with his previous experiences within the industry. This would lead to a $3 million budget by MGM, opening wide on January 11, 1989. Wide?
Yeah.
I'm Gonna Get You, Sucka grossed $13 million and was met with mixed reviews, but at the same time was considered a commercial success. Overall, the film is inventive, fun, and gloriously offensive, setting the stage and the bar pretty high for parody films for years to come. I gave this 4 out of 5 goldfish platforms. Thank you.
The goldfish platform scene is so fucking funny. And I remember like being young and like almost being on the verge of tears, like feeling so bad for Fly Guy. Because he thinks he's so cool coming out of prison, and everyone is just like clowning him and his shoes. And then he's trying to like get away from him, and one of them breaks, and he's just kind of like hobbling the rest of the way. And being young, I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna cry. Like, I feel so bad for him.
What does somebody say to him where they're like, oh, you went to you're shopping at the thrift store or something?
They're talking about how he's got aquariums in his shoes. Yeah. And then I remember like there was whether it's connected to this movie or not, probably not. Maybe they really did make those shoes. But there's a Simpsons joke with like Disco Stew at one point in time. Puts his feet up on the desk, and he's got like the platform aquarium shoes. Mm-hmm. And someone's like, oh, like the fish in your shoes are dead. He's like, I know, I can't get them out. And I don't know if that was like a reference to this movie or just they really did sell those shoes, which seems barbaric. Because did they open up so you could feed the fish? Were the fish just decorative little floaties, or were they actually alive?
Because they look alive in this movie.
They do look alive.
But how would that work?
Yeah, like if you really had those shoes in real life, is there a trap door that you can open up to feed them?
Change the water?
Exactly. So if someone knows if they really made those shoes for real,
let us know.
Let us know. Because all I know is a joke in this movie and a joke on The Simpsons.
This really has nothing to do with these platform shoes, but how do you feel about water beds?
My parents had one when I was younger. It's a weird thing. Like, you lay down, the whole bed moves every time you move in bed. Mm-hmm. The whole thing, it's like riding a wave. Oh, I have no idea how people slept on those.
Is that good? Is that good for you?
It can't be good for your back because there's no support. No real support.
Yeah.
Plus, if it springs a leak, you're fucked. And I remember being a kid and they sprung a leak at one point in time. I mean, there's like a frame around like the tubes mm-hmm. so that if it springs a leak, like you're not soaking up the carpet underneath the bed, but at the same time,
it's a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. They had it for at least the first 10 to 12 years of my life. I don't remember exactly when they got rid of it, but they did. And I remember just when I was younger, always running and like jumping on their bed because it was fun to kind of like ride that wave. And then they would yell at me like, don't jump, because they didn't want to bust the tubes. Who knows? Who knows? I don't know why they had that. Maybe that was just leftover shit from the 70s that they had.
Obviously, we're in February. It's Black History Month. This is a solid pick for that. But I want to hear what is your relationship with this film? Overall?
This is a movie that I was always on when I was younger. Mm-hmm. So I would always watch it. Fucking love it. Think it's hilarious. Still think it's hilarious. You should have heard me watching it the other night. But it always seemed like kind of a cult movie.
That's for sure, yeah.
Yeah. And I just wanted to talk about it. Like I said, there's probably not a lot that we're going to discuss, like as far as production and behind the scenes shit. And I have less than a page of notes, and you know me and my notes usually. But I just wanted to highlight the movie because it's a funny movie. Maybe not a lot of people know about it. I think like In Living Color obviously elevated this film, even though this film was what was made before and got Wayans the clout to make In Living Color. But I think that In Living Color kind of elevated the film in popular culture because, people were going back and watching this film.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why I watched so much of it when I was younger, because I was a huge, huge fan of In Living Color. And always just got a huge kick out of this movie. Even if at the time when I did watch, the first couple of times I watched it, really had no frame of reference as to who some of these people were in the film, had no idea, that Jim Brown or Bernie Casey or Isaac Hayes had, previous connections to like blaxploitation films. Obviously, later on, I knew who they were. But when I was younger, it was a funny fucking movie that I would watch. But how did you come across this? Because you're younger than I am. So was it on TV? Did your grandparents have it? Did you discover it like on cable or something at some point in time?
So I was born in 89, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is 88, technically. I remember watching this over and over again. It would be on TV. So for the early years of my life, we didn't have cable. We had like the basic channels,
Mm-hmm.
So I would watch like Power Rangers and Spider-Man, whatever was on Fox, or WB. And I think that they would play this constantly on the WB as like they had like throwback films.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have this on constantly, and that's how I became very familiar with it. So I was like essentially watching like Power Rangers, and then would go straight into something like this, which is fucking makes no sense at all to a regular person, right? But that's why I'm a weirdo, I guess.
No, not at all. I'm wondering like where it was when I first saw it. I wonder if I saw it like on Fox, because Fox had to deal with Wayans for In Living Color. Or when I was younger, like KTLA was really big down here, which is a main Los Angeles station, but it was shown in San Diego for I don't know how many years. But that's how I knew a lot of stuff. Like was watching KTLA.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I know like Cal Worthington and his dog Spot, because they would play those commercials because he was a Los Angeles based car salesman. But I don't remember I wish I remembered what channel it was on when I first saw it. But I'm gonna guess like either KTLA or Fox, like in the early 90s.
Because I remember being exposed to like In Living Color, the Wayans Brothers TV show.
Yeah, they had their show. I think it was on the WB, wasn't it?
Yeah, for a long time, and then like things like the Steve Harvey Show or the Jamie Foxx Show. I was always consistently watching all of that.
It's funny because Joelle and I, huge fans of In Living Color. And we reference the show all the time still, even in our mid-40s. We'll reference a lot of In Living Color sketches. And even last year, you and I were talking, and I had you like watch like the Misery 2 sketch with Keenan Ivory Wayans as Rick James. And Joelle's like, it's really funny how stuff like In Living Color and like the early 90s Saturday Night Live like really kind of shaped our comedic tastes. Just that irreverent humor, still to this day, we find so fucking funny.
To this day.
And I'm wondering, like, who else still finds it funny? Because Susie never laughed whenever I would reference, like, early 90s, like, SNL stuff. She never thought it was funny. But if you brought it up with, like, Joelle and I, like, you'd have us rolling on the floor laughing.
Like, you're showing her skits, and she doesn't...
I would show her skits... And she would just, like, it was over her head. And she would be like, that's not funny. I'd be like, are you kidding me? Like, it's so fucking funny. Something like the Misery 2 sketch, or there's a parody of, like, a Shabba Ranks video with, like, with Marlon Wayans, like Mr. Ugly Man.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Silence of the Lambs parody with Damon Wayans, where he's playing the character, but he's supposed to be like the Hannibal Lecter character. He's playing like the really intelligent and articulate. If you reference that, we'll fucking die. But I guarantee you, like, referencing it with Susie, even when I would, it would just be like, she never thought that it was funny.
Do you like Mad TV?
I liked it for like the first season or two, and then just kind of
got out of it,
or it dropped off or something. I stopped watching. Even like in Living Color, first 3 seasons really fucking good, but the next 2, especially the last season, when most of the main cast members are gone, the Wayans were definitely gone by the 5th season. It's just not that good. Like they had like real magic in those first 2 or 3 seasons.
That's a great segue into the first 2 Scary Movies are incredible. And then after the Wayans left...
Oh, yeah, they got so bad.
They shouldn't have made it anymore.
Joelle and I loved the second one. Like, the first one's got pretty solid laughs in it. And when I referenced, I think last month, that that we're doing the film from one of the more successful black directors.
Yeah.
Keanu Wayans, I think, had the most successful film by a black director because of Scary Movie, like for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was the first Fantastic Four, because Tim Story directed it. Might have bumped.
Oh, that dethroned him?
I think so. But Scary Movie also didn't cost what Fantastic Four cost either, so his margin of profit was much bigger. But yeah, the first Scary Movie is good and funny, but we loved the second one. And I remember like watching it a few times with him and laughing our asses off because I thought the humor was better. It's got the cold open with James Woods and the Exorcist parody, which is really fucking funny.
Yeah. It's
got like Chris Elliott, who we love.
Yep.
As like the creepo butler. Like those are so fucking funny. Of course, like Regina Hall is so fucking funny in both of those movies. And that's where I remember kind of like first being turned on to her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if I'd seen her in much before that. But she's fucking hilarious. Anna Faris, actually, like being introduced to her. But we loved the second one. And I remember like taking some friends of ours to the second one and just like, we're fucking laughing, but they're just like, it didn't do anything for them. They're just like, oh, that was kind of dumb. We're like, what? Like, it's so fucking funny. And then once you know the Wayans left, and it was, I want to say it was Zucker, one of the Zucker brothers directed like the next 2.
Really?
If I'm not mistaken, yeah.
And then they went the PG-13 route.
Yeah. Isn't that third one PG-13?
Yeah.
It's bad, yeah.
All of them, I think, after the second are PG-13. Why? And the other ones, the spin-offs, like Epic Movie or Date Movie.
Well, yeah. Was it Seltzer and Friedberg?
Dance
fucking
movie.
Hacks, dude.
Yeah.
Big hacks. And I know that their names are on the Scary Movie because apparently there was, one of like 8 scripts that they took jokes from, and that's why all these writers get credited for them. But yeah, like the parody movie completely fucking falls off the ledge after Scary Movie, after the first 2 Scary Movies, and it's just like dumb reference jokes. It's not like funny where like they're parodying something but not being like, here's why this is funny. It's fucking Seth MacFarlane humor, or what those movies are, where it's like, I need to tell you why this is funny and why you should laugh, even though I'm not really referencing or I'm not really parodying anything. I'm just making a reference to something. Yeah, that's not fucking funny.
Family Guy style,
yeah,
or whatever.
They're not what they were anymore. And this is I'm Gonna Get You Sucka is a really fucking funny parody movie because you know what it's parodying, like Airplane, but it's not like making direct references to shit saying, here's a reference to something, you'll recognize it, you should laugh.
It's just doing it, and if you get it,
yeah,
cool. And if not, oh well.
Airplane's fucking hilarious, but it's not saying like, you should be laughing at this because this is funny.
Beating you over the head.
Yeah.
Do you like Don't Be a Menace?
I love Don't Be a Menace. That's a great movie. I just rewatched that not too long ago. Which he didn't direct, but I think he wrote, or at least had a hand in the writing of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love his mailman, like Keenan Ivory Wayans' mailman, when he pops up and he's like, message!
Yeah.
That's another funny movie that's in that same vein.
That's another one. Since we're kind of referencing Susie, she fucking hates that movie.
Really? It's hilarious. Has she just not seen some of those movies that's parodying?
Maybe.
Like has she seen Boys in the Hood or Menace to Society?
She definitely hasn't seen Menace to Society. She's seen Boys in the Hood, but I think she probably saw the parody first.
Okay.
So it was like, you know.
Well, I mean, not like I'm gonna get you sucker. Like direct references a lot of stuff, but I mean, I saw this before I saw movies like other blaxploitation movies that they were parodying.
I think it's funny whether you get it or not.
Yeah,
because it's so ridiculous. And
I could be wrong, but I don't think there's a direct parody of a specific thing in this movie. It's just like the genre is what they're parodying.
Generalizations.
Yeah.
And it's kind of having that, what would you say, like that facetious humor where it's like actually making fun of black culture or stereotypes in black culture.
OG, dude, the over gold stuff. Fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And I think that's why a lot of the maybe the white critics had issues with it. It was because
I think it was just ahead of its time.
Yeah,
where people were like, "What is this? This is crazy."
This did very well with like black audiences. So I think like maybe a lot of it was just over like what white audiences had at the time, or like white critics specifically heads at the time. One of which we'll get into later on. I know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's. I think they just said, "Oh, like yeah, it's like trying to be like overly offensive," and it's really not. It's just parodying, stereotypical culture stuff.
I think that a lot of people prefer they want light humor. They don't want the raunchy stuff. But it's like also this movie is rated R.
Yeah.
So when you're going into it, you should expect, it's not going to probably be all pleasant.
And it's not even super raunchy.
No.
It's pretty tame. I mean, like the most raunchy scene is when Cherry picks him up in the bar.
Yeah.
And she's making like all the like the innuendo stuff and
12 inches.
12 inches. And then talking about like how much like she wants him and everything, and then they get back to her apartment and she's
like how do you say like an amputee almost?
She just like pulls off like the wig and her eyes aren't this color and like her luscious ass and her tits and all this, like it's not hers, and she keeps pulling it out, and then like finally it's like the leg, she like pops off the leg.
She's like, don't make me hop after you.
Want to give her a shout out. That's Anne-Marie Johnson, who was a cast member of I think the last season of In Living Color. But I always would see her on TV. She was on the TV version of In the Heat of the Night. So that's how I knew her. She's really fucking funny in her scene in this movie. But that scene with Cherry is so fucking funny where she is picking him up in the bar.
Yep.
But that's like the most raunchy thing in the movie. Everything else is just like irreverence and making fun of, certain parts of the culture or parodying the blaxploitation films of the 70s.
It's pretty funny when, and I know I'm skipping ahead or whatever, but
we're going to bounce around all over because like there's no clear.
Yeah, there's no through line.
Yeah, there's no through line here. I just want to talk about it so we can like highlight a bunch of the funny shit in the movie. Hopefully people will watch this.
I thought it was funny, like, towards the end when our main players get all their weapons, Keenan, he gets like Jack, he gets like the big ass like rifle.
The M60.
Yes.
Like the Rambo M60.
And it was like, are they referencing Missing in Action? Like that's what it feels like. It's like a Chuck Norris throwback or Delta Force or something, whatever.
Oh, I don't know.
Because he has that weapon.
I mean that's also like a Rambo parody too, because that's what Rambo has in Part 2 in First Blood Part 2.
Yeah.
I don't know, like you're right, like Missing in Action, which Steve James, who's Kung Fu Joe, is in one of those movies. Is it Missing in Action? Steve James, who plays Kung Fu Joe, who's very fucking funny, tragically died, like, young. He was only, like, early 40s when he passed away.
Do you know why?
Pancreatic cancer.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, I remembered he was in, like, one of those Chuck Norris ones. I couldn't remember if it was Delta Force or, like, Missing in Action.
And then he's, Jack is, like, cauterizing what looks like a paper cut or something.
Which I'm wondering if that's a parody of Rambo 3, because there's a scene in Rambo 3 where he gets shot or he gets some shrapnel in the side, and then there's a scene where he's, like, cutting out the shrapnel and then putting in some gunpowder and lighting it so that it cauterizes the wound.
Maybe it is Rambo, then.
It might be. If not, it's just some funny shit. I like that montage where it shows, like, Isaac Hayes, who plays Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like the montage of him, like, loading up and, like, putting all the guns in his holsters. He's got, like, 10 different guns on him. You know, the shoulder holsters, the hip holsters, one in the back. And
the boot.
Yeah. And then goes outside and slips and falls, and immediately, like, all the guns start going off.
And it's like, what, for like 45 seconds? And the guys just hide behind a car until it's done.
I like that whole, like, montage scene is really fucking funny. Yeah, and then, yeah, during the gunfight, like, Jack has, like, that paper cut. I like when they go to see One-Eyed Sam.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got, like, he's got the eye patch, and he's talking, I was in the typing pool doing office work. He's like, I thought you were in Vietnam. He's like, yeah, man, it was like secretary. It's like, how'd you lose your eye? He's like, oh, man, I'm fucking around in the office. He's like, we were shooting paper clips at one another.
And I caught one in the eye. And they're, like, high-fiving each other.
Yeah, because Jack's got all those patches on his bomber jacket, and Slade's, like, asking him, like, what the hell were all those for? And he's like, oh, yeah, this is for this is for shorthand, this is for typing. Because they were in, like, the clerical department.
The diner scene when Jack is about to get jumped by these two gangsters, and then his mom comes in and saves him. But then they clearly cut to a stunt double
in, like, the wig and the dress. Yeah, he's got, like, the mustache.
Yeah. And he's just beating up the guys, and then it cuts back to her, and she's all it's so good.
Because they've established that when we first meet her, that she's, like, kind of a badass when Mr. Big's goons, like Damon Wayans and Kadeem Hardison, come in to harass her because Junebug owed money.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And they want to collect. And then Kadeem Hardison's just, like, trashing the apartment. And she's like, oh, you better pick all that up. And then they, like, think they can push over on her, and she just beats the shit out of them.
Yeah, one of them, like, smacks her, and she's all, oh, no, you didn't just come into my house. And just, like, beats, does she hurt both of them? Or no?
She knocks him around and then tells him, like, pick up the magazines and pick up the pillows.
And then Damon's character starts, he's, oh, I never told you to hurt her. He's all, yeah, fluff those pillows too.
And then that's when it's, then there's two ways out of here. You can take the stairs or you can take the window. And they're like, oh, yeah, we'll take the stairs. And instead it's just like her throwing them down the stairs.
And that's when we meet Jack.
Yep, that's when we meet Jack, who's home from the army, because his brother was killed. His brother died of OG, as we mentioned at the top of the show. He OG'd over gold.
That's how they open up this movie.
Yeah. It's like a serious thing, or it was like a dead kid.
They're like, Jesus Christ, how does he go to the bathroom? And then the cops are taking pictures.
Oh, yeah. He's like, yeah, wrap it up, boys. They're just, like, posing them in those rap poses. So, before we just get into just talking about all the rest of the funny shit that's in the movie,
mm-hmm.
Let me give you just a little bit of background. Keenan Ivory Wayans gets his start as a comic in New York. And then there he meets Robert Townsend, who they develop a friendship. They both move out to Los Angeles to be actors. Townsend, kind of a mentor figure, even though, they're peers, but kind of mentors Keenan Ivory Wayans. And then Townsend goes to make his first movie, Hollywood Shuffle, which is another fucking amazing comedy / kind of a parody of sorts in some scenes. A movie that I will say has been on the short list to talk about for a while. Mm-hmm. And I think we may have already set our February movie for next year, but don't be surprised if it's our February movie a couple of years from now. But Hollywood Shuffle, really fucking funny movie. Wayans is a co-writer on that and then also co-stars in the film. It is so fucking funny in that movie. And then Townsend directs Eddie Murphy's comedy special Raw, which Keenan Ivory Wayans co-writes the opening sketch of that. And then because those were both successful projects, kind of has the clout to make this movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucka. And I think it's Eddie Murphy that, they're just like bullshitting one day, talking about their love of the blaxploitation movies, and, Wayans drops this idea on them, and I think it's Murphy that actually comes up with the title, or like suggests, oh, you should call it this. Mm-hmm. And then Wayans says, oh, that's a pretty good title. Like, can I use that? Do you mind if I use that? That's just like your little background. I don't have a whole lot, like I said. I think we've pretty much covered the majority of my notes already. But that's how this movie gets started, and has a decent budget.
Yeah,
$3 million for this movie is pretty decent because it's not expensive, and makes, like you said, makes a profit.
The less it takes to make a movie, the more profit you're gonna make.
Yeah, it's successful enough that Fox offers him the chance to do In Living Color, which he wanted to do because he wants like kind of a counter to Saturday Night Live with, a predominantly white cast. In Living Color has a predominantly black cast or people of color cast. Obviously launches the careers of Jim Carrey, and, Damon Wayans was around, obviously appears in this movie, but I think becomes a lot bigger based off of his performances and his sketches on In Living Color.
What about stuff like
seen Bulletproof with
Ben
Sandler? I remember that.
Or The Last Boy Scout?
Well, I love The Last Boy Scout. That's Shane Black, mm-hmm. Tony Scott. I really like that. I hear that him and Willis didn't get along. I'm not surprised. But I love The Last Boy Scout. Rewatch that fairly constantly too, especially around Christmas time, since it's kind of falls into that Shane Black Christmas movie category. Even though I think it only references Christmas maybe once or twice, and there's nothing that's overtly Christmas in it.
Just like The Nice Guys, right?
Yeah. Like, I think like at the very end, it's like, oh yeah, like this is, it's Christmas. Even though there's nothing overtly Christmas in the film, like The Long Kiss Goodnight or Lethal Weapon.
Or it's like there's a clear theme throughout.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the biggest one that I remember seeing. And speaking of Lethal Weapon, Damon Wayans was in the TV show version of Lethal Weapon for the 2-3 seasons.
Is that over now?
That ran, yeah. That was over maybe 2019. I think that was the last season of it. I don't know. It was all right. I watched it with my dad. He seemed to like it. But Wayans and the guy that was like the Riggs character apparently didn't get along either.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Clashing egos. Different personalities.
What do you think about the other stuff that the Wayans have done? Like what is it, Little Man? And
I don't think I've ever seen Little Man.
No.
White Chicks is pretty fucking funny.
It is.
And I'm all about the Terry Crews stuff in it because I think he's phenomenal in that movie. I think that's another one of like one of the best comedic performances you'll ever see.
He's very good in Everybody Hates Chris as well.
He was fantastic as his dad in Everybody Hates Chris. Loved that show. Was really disappointed when that got canceled or at least shuffled around enough that I could never find it again.
Mm-hmm.
Loved that show. But yeah, White Chicks is pretty fucking funny. I don't think I've seen Little Man. Marlon Wayans has what obviously had, I think, the most successful kind of post scary movie career, and has become, did the more dramatic work as well.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
In Living Color kind of put him on the map, Marlon Wayans, but he was still known enough that that they were going to offer him the role of Robin in Tim Burton's Batman.
For Robin?
Yeah, for Robin. When that version of the script was out there. So he was known enough, which is weird because he seemed so young,
mm-hmm.
but also I had no idea until, In Living Color came around. Him and Sean both have cameos in this movie, like blink and you'll miss them cameos. They're two guys on the street like laughing at Fly Guy when he gets out of jail. But I think that he's obviously had the more successful career post scary movie. So good in Requiem for a Dream.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe not so much in G.I. Joe, but...
And he's also doing, I think even right now, like currently, the stand-up comedy. Right?
Good, yeah.
Marlon, yeah.
I mean, obviously, Don't Be a Menace, which we've mentioned already, is hilarious. Oh, yeah, I forgot he was in the Aretha Franklin biopic.
What year is that?
That's 2021. I think that was a movie that got shuffled because of the pandemic. I think it was supposed to open in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And then did it, and then kind of came out in 2021, but because things were still a little weird at that time, like maybe got lost in the shuffle. Oh yeah, The Heat. I remember he's in The Heat.
Oh yeah.
He's the FBI agent. So yeah, he's had a solid career, but then he's got like fucking Dance Flick and A Haunted House.
Have you seen A Haunted House?
No.
It's funny, but it's pretty. I don't think it's funny for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Where you're like, no, come on, guys.
The Lady Killers.
Oh, yeah.
I know that's like lower tier Coen Brothers by a lot of people, but I still contend that there is some funny stuff in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
And he has some pretty fucking funny scenes. But I don't think Keenan Ivory Wayans has done a whole lot.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Maybe he's just looking to retire.
How old would he be right now?
I know that he was on a reality show. Was it America's Top Comic or Last Comic Standing or something?
Mm-hmm.
I think he's got to be in his early 60s.
Yeah, because Sean and Marlon have to be like at mid-40s.
And I got Marlon's stuff pulled up right here. He was born 72, so he's 52 years old as of this recording. Well, July of 72, so 51 going on 52.
Almost 52.
As of this recording. I don't know if Keenan Ivory Wayans just wanted to chill. And
what about Sean? What is he up to?
What is Sean up to? Let's look up on the old IMDb.
What does he say in Scary Movie 2 where he's all, what do you think, tucked in or tucked out?
There's a really funny scene in Don't Be a Menace where Marlon Wayans is like, should I wear like these sneakers with this gun? Should I wear this sneaker with like the Tech 9?
Or that classic when they get rolled up on by these gang members, and then Marlon Wayans he rolls up the U-Haul truck and he has a fucking nuke. I said, "Do we have a problem?"
Sean Wayans hasn't done much.
No?
He's got Dance Flick. That's 2009. Little Man, which was 2006.
Mm-hmm.
And then Animals, which was the animated show on HBO, where he just did a voice. That was 2016. So, yeah. I don't have him as an actor.
Living off those residuals, huh?
Hey, man. He had some solid hits and come from a dynasty, a comedy dynasty.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't need a whole lot. Have you seen Little Man? Is it any good?
Which one? Little
yeah,
Man?
Little Man.
Seen it once. I can't really answer that honestly. I don't really remember it.
Okay.
Maybe I'll watch it again. I'll take one for the team and let you know.
Maybe at some point in time I'll watch it. I remember seeing the trailers and just being like, yeah, that's kind of a drop off
yeah.
for the Wayans. I mean, that's an original movie, as is White Chicks. I don't think that is really a parody of anything, just a comedy film. So
I'm surprised they didn't do a follow-up to that. Because White Chicks, I'm pretty sure
White Chicks was pretty successful.
Yeah. Now, I know you probably couldn't do that movie now.
Oh, you have a whole bunch of fucking, MAGA types, getting super offended.
Yeah. But I mean, around that time, I'm surprised they didn't try to do another one. But not all movies need a follow-up, like you say.
No, not everything needs a follow-up. But yeah, that was a pretty successful movie. I'm surprised, like you, that they didn't parlay that into at least another film. I like when Damon Wayans is they get thrown down the stairs multiple times throughout the movie, to the point where they're just he's in the neck brace and the leg cast.
Yeah.
And when he chases when Wayans is chasing Cheryl, Don Lewis's character, down the street, after she leaves the diner having some menstrual cramps. She's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go home. So she leaves, and then Wayne starts following her, and you see the close up of the feet, and he's because he's hobbled, he's kind of trying to keep up with her.
And you see the cast, yeah.
He's got the cane, and he turns around and he's like, oh yeah, I told you I was gonna get you. And she spins around, and it's full on Exorcist mode.
Well, she's nice, and she's like, can't you just let me go home? And he's all, didn't you hear what I said, bitch?
Yeah, he smacks her.
Yeah. And then she turns fucking like a creature out of the Thriller music video or something.
Yeah, she turns around like Michael Jackson at the end of that video.
And he's all, you got the devil inside you or something.
And she's like, no, cramps. And she starts grabbing him and roughing him up, and he's screaming.
And she says something like, I asked you nicely once, now I'm going to hurt you or something. And then his buddy comes and knocks her over the head. But it's pretty funny.
He's like, yeah, man. He's like, I heard you screaming. He's like, no, I wasn't screaming. I was whistling. He's like, you're whistling? He's like, yeah, you're whistling help, get this crazy woman off me.
He does that throughout the film, right? Because then he pretends he doesn't want Mr. Big to know that they got beat up by a woman, so he claims that her son came home.
Yeah,
and
they got hurt getting thrown down the stairs, but it was really Jack that beat him up. He was the big army dude that came.
And he's all, yeah, the big dude.
Parsons oh yeah. Mr. Big, John Vernon, classic character actor. You know him from. He's the police chief in Dirty Harry, or the police captain in Dirty Harry. He's in Outlaw Josie Wales. He's Dean Warmer in Animal House, maybe his best known role. What other movies he's in? Ernest Goes to Camp, the best Ernest movie, which is another film that I watched the hell out of when I was younger. And then they make the joke at the end, and they're like, "Whoa, aren't you a little big to be the bad guy?" He's like, "No, lots of big actors were in exploitation movies." There's the meta breaking of the fourth wall. We were talking with Vic just before we started to record, and he was talking about when there's that scene where he says what makes you think you can be a black hero? He's like, oh, I was a football player. I'm an ex-football player. And there's that cut to Jim Brown.
And he's like,
or my favorite scene where it breaks the fourth wall, where they're in the bar where they meet Cherry, and there's the singer who's singing "The Saints Go Marching In," and she's just having a ball with it. just like on the floor, tearing it up. The Saints go marching in, just like all just off key, screaming, getting like just so worked up with that song. And then Bernie Casey, who plays Slade, it's like, excuse me, like, who's that woman singing the song? She's like, oh, the waitress says, oh, she's the director's sister. And it cuts to Keenan Wayans because that Kim Wayans, that's Kim Wayans that's up there. Another, obviously, she was on In Living Color as well. So, I mean, we talked about Isaac Hayes being in the movie. Isaac Hayes, who is in some great films in the 70s. Obviously, he's in Escape from New York, which fucking rules. But Truck Turner, have you ever seen Truck Turner? Dude, you should watch Truck Turner. You might not be a huge like Star Trek fan, but do you know who Nichelle Nichols is?
Yes.
She's Uhura. She's great in that movie. She's like the villain. At least not necessarily the main villain, per se. I think that she is. But I think Yaphet Kotto might be like the secondary villain. But Nichelle Nichols is so good in like this villainous role that I would highly suggest you check out if you ever get a chance to see Truck Turner. Obviously, it has the connection to another very famous blaxploitation movie in Shaft, which I wouldn't say is a blaxploitation movie per se. I mean, it's in that genre, but also I think it's a really solid like detective movie that just because it stars like a black man got lumped into that blaxploitation. To me, when I think blaxploitation, I think, a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
Like production quality.
Yeah, like Grindhouse.
Yeah.
Grindhouse.
Yeah. Like, which I would say like Truck Turner falls into, but I think Shaft is elevated. Even Superfly, I think, is elevated above that. But Isaac Hayes obviously famously does the theme for Shaft, which you hear here because it's Slade's theme music, his backing music, and that's another good joke in the movie where he has the band following him around. And Jack's like, who are these guys? It's like, oh, they're my theme music. Every good hero should have one.
And they just continue following you.
And, the joke comes around at the end because Jack has his own theme music at the very end. Boogie Down Productions, Jack of Spades, which is a great song. It's what plays over the closing credits. One of the first BDP albums I had was a best of, and that song is on there. So I was like always really excited that song was on that album, that best of album. Bernie Casey is in Cleopatra Jones. He's also the dean in Revenge of the Nerds. He's the history teacher in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Jim Brown, obviously, had a very successful movie career. He's in Slaughter, which is good. Three the Hard Way. Dirty Dozen, which is one of the bigger movies that he was in. And then even Antonio Fargas was Fly Guy. Is famous. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was Huggy Bear on Starsky and Hutch.
Do you remember when you got mad that they remade Superfly?
Oh my god. Such fucking trash. Superfly is great. The fucking soundtrack is one of the best soundtracks ever. That Curtis Mayfield soundtrack is incredible. And I remember seeing like the trailer for like a new Superfly movie back in like 2018. And I'm like, oh yeah, like the music's gonna be like trap music, and I was like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Fucking trap music, like compared to like the Curtis Mayfield score. Curtis Mayfield's fucking rolling in his grave right now. Yes, okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to say because I don't remember Starsky and Hutch, the TV show, very much. But yes, Antonio Fargas is in Starsky and Hutch. He was Huggy Bear. But also, he's in Foxy Brown, and he's in Cleopatra Jones. He's in Shaft. He's in Across 110th Street. Very famous song by Bobby Womack, which is what bookends Jackie Brown. So they're all in, famous blaxploitation movies or black cinema before this movie. I know that Wayans had asked Ron O'Neal, who's in Superfly, if he wanted to be in the film, and he didn't want to be typecast, so he turned it down. But it's kind of cool that they bring these stars in for the parody of, those types of movies that they did. Another one of the scenes that we reference all the fucking time is the Chris Rock scene, where he comes into the rib joint that Hammer and Slammer run.
Yep.
Isaac Hayes and Jim Brown's characters.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh yeah, how much are your ribs? And he's like, oh yeah, $250. Isaac Hayes tells him $250. How many ribs do you get with that? About 5. Oh, so like 50 cents a rib. Like, yeah. He's like, how much for one rib? Like, what? No, I don't sell one rib. He's like, come on. It's like, just one rib? He's like, I sure am hungry.
And then he pulls out, he has like all of this money.
Does he ask him, like, can you break 100? You got change for 100? He wants like the soda, and he's like, how much is the soda? He's like, $1. He's like, oh, come on. It's like, how much for like 15 cents? He's like, what? He's like, how about you just pour it in my hand for 10 cents? He's like, no. He's like, that'll be this much. And he pulls out the fucking wad of hundreds. But just that whole scene is just so fucking funny. Like, Isaac Hayes is so fucking annoyed. He kicks and he throws him out. But just the one rib, and he's like, I sure am hungry.
How much for one rib? And he's all, hey, can we get like a rack? And he's all, no. I said one.
Yeah, he tells Jim Brown to start cooking up the rack of ribs. No, just one rib. Chris Rock was on Saturday Night Live. He's part of that early 90s cast. But I know that he had been on In Living Color. I don't remember if he was like a main player, or if he was like kind of like a featured guy, or like cameo on some episodes. I remember him being on both shows at the same time. My man David Alan Grier has a cameo as the newsman in the beginning when they're doing like the games, like the inner city games.
Yeah,
he's the newsman talking to Bernie Casey's character Slade about it, and Bernie Casey's like, oh yeah, like you know how it is. He's like, actually I don't. He's like, I grew up in a very white neighborhood. David Alan Grier, 100% my favorite comedian on In Living Color. I love David Alan Grier. I think he's so fucking funny. He, at one point, before Seinfeld, he was up for like the George Costanza role. Or he had auditioned for the George Costanza role.
Really?
Yeah. And one of the funniest fucking stories I ever heard was, I think, him on the Howard Stern show talking about how the audition went. And he does like a impression of Seinfeld acting against him in this scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fucking funny because David Alan Grier is just like so laid back, but then he does the Seinfeld impression, like ask him if he wants to go get like a sandwich or something. And he's just like, yeah, okay, sure, cool, like let's go get a sandwich. But like the Seinfeld impression is just like so over the top. It's hilarious, and that's like one of those weird stories I remember hearing where he had auditioned for that George Costanza role before Jason Alexander got it. And I just thought, like, that would be fucking funny. I would love to see that, because I love David Alan Grier so much. Him and Tommy Davidson, their characters with the Funky Finger Productions on In Living Color, that's another sketch that Joel and I reference all the fucking time. With the bam! With like the card, like their business card, with just like boom, like right in your face. Funky Finger Productions. Tommy Davidson, another super underrated comedic actor. My second favorite from that show, but big David Alan Grier fan. At the end, when they're about to assault like Mr. Big's warehouse, Slade is like laying out the plan. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this. He's like, I'm going to go through the window. Slammer, you go through the door. And Jim Brown's like, he's like, why you always got to go through the window? He's like, why can't I go through the window? And so he's just like, well, pardon fucking me. Like, you want to go through the window. And then, like, when they go through like, he jumps through the window and he just falls and just gets, like, he has to take, like, a few extra seconds to get up. And then Slade has like the dynamite Or like the pipe bombs that he lights and he's trying to rappel down the side of the building and he fucking blows up.
Oh, that's why. Yeah, he comes later on. He saves everyone, right?
Yeah,
and he's all burnt.
Because they corner Mr. Big. They corner. Jack comes in to save Cheryl, and he gets the better of Damon Wayans and Kadima Hardison, and then Mr. Big comes in and puts the gun on him.
And they're like, "Wait!"
And then Fly Guy, Fly Guy comes in, and then Mr. Big comes in, and then Slade shoots Mr. Big.
When Mr. Big comes in, and then Damon takes his gun back.
Yeah, he's like, "Give me that."
I really like it towards the beginning when Jack goes to see Slade for the first time, and he shows him a picture of his mom, but he doesn't know that it's his mom, and he's all, I remember her. She used to do this thing with her mouth.
Yeah, he goes into the body sex story. He's like, hey, that's my mom. He's like, oh yeah. And he's like, wait, you're not. He's like, no, because he was implicating. The implication was that he was his son.
He's all, you ain't about to tell me I'm your father or some shit, right? Because I ain't all about that.
Talking about his mom.
He's all, you see me and your mother? That's love. You see that at the end of the bar? That's getting laid.
Yeah. And then when he sees Cherry for the first time.
Yeah.
When they recruit Kung Fu Joe, and then he gets pulled over by the cops.
That's pretty fucked up.
Just like the way he gets out of the car, he's like doing the karate moves.
When he put your hands on the hood, and he's all,
but then he beats him up, which may or may not be like a parody of the scene in Enter the Dragon, where Jim Kelly beats up those two cops that try to pull him over, start fucking with them, and then he beats the shit out of them. And then what always makes us laugh, like Joel and I, whenever we watch the movies, as a fuck you, he turns on he steals their car and turns on the siren as he drives off. So I think that may be a parody of that scene in Enter the Dragon. But he beats up the cops and all the cops show up. It's like, okay, you think you can take me on?
He says oh, you 87 cops think you can take Kung Fu Joe on?
And then cut and all you hear gunshots.
Because you think that they're gonna
see all the cops shooting.
They set up for a big they're all gonna jump him, and then they're just like. And
then there's the scene later on where he's trying to get down the street to Slade's apartment. And he's all tore up and bloody.
Yeah. And he calls and he just gets the voicemail.
But he doesn't know it's the voicemail. It's Slade. He's like, Slade, they're coming. And it's I fooled you. It's 30 seconds later, 60 seconds later.
So you're not home?
Even though the way he dials the number. So, 7.
Have you waited after?
Of course.
You seen the post?
You see him at the very end, where he's like, "Oh, I have to get there." And they're like, "Yo, buddy, it's already over." Yeah, Fly Guy shows up at the end to save Jack, and now he's dressed real, debonair.
Mm-hmm.
He's updated his look. That fucking outfit that he has on when he gets out of jail is ridiculous. The yellow jumpsuit, that hat is so big. And he's got the cool music.
Yep.
I think Fishbone. I think that's Fishbone
mm-hmm.
that I read in doing the research. They're outside the jail, kind of doing his music.
And they're credited, and I saw them at the end as
Fishbone.
well.
Underrated punk act, dude.
I seen them once.
Yeah, I think I remember you saying that.
That was at Coachella.
Yeah.
So fuck you, Vic.
We were talking about a decade ago with Vic off the air, and he was wondering what he was doing a decade ago, and you would ask me oh wow, it was 2015 or 2014 really a decade ago, and I said yeah, that was the year that this and you and Susie had gone to Coachella that year, and Vic was Coachella, that kind of sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw some good acts when you guys went.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Susie sent me the video of Dum Dum Girls and
Arcade Fire, Lana.
Jaguar Ma.
Yeah. Warpaint.
Warpaint, yeah.
The first time we saw them.
Was that before we saw him at the North Park Observatory?
Yeah.
Where someone like shit their pants during the last song.
Yeah.
And it fucking stunk and Susie and I fucking bailed.
Yeah.
We're like, we're getting the fuck out of here. It stinks. Yeah, there was some good acts that year that you guys went.
Yeah, it was worth it. We didn't get to see her, but even Lord played. Like, it was just crazy.
Who was the headliner?
Arcade Fire, Beck, and I think Motorhead closed as well on the day that we went. Mm-hmm. But then supposedly that it wasn't really them, but Daft Punk came out with Arcade Fire. But I heard that wasn't.
But you can't tell because of the masks.
You can't because they had helmets on. Yeah, they had helmets or whatever, and it seemed real. I have footage of that still. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've read that it was like the Arcade Fire were like being sarcastic or something. I was like, okay, whatever. Did you want to get into the reviews? Do you have a couple?
I don't have many more than just, a general, like, obviously, like, the black audiences loved it. They could see, like, the parody of the, the blaxploitation films that they had grew up watching. Mm-hmm. But critics said that it failed to properly parody, like, black stereotypes, and said the film wasn't funny. But they're full of shit. The movie's fucking hilarious.
And that's...
I'll laugh my ass off.
That's Roger.
We have a specific Roger Ebert review that says, it's a comedy that feeds off the blaxploitation movie, and although, like all good satires, it is cheerfully willing to be offensive, it is almost incapable of being funny. But he's so wrong on that because that movie's hilarious. Still is, like I said. You should have heard me laughing my ass off watching it the other night.
No, it's pretty funny.
When he goes to the Black Liberation.
Oh yeah. Yeah. With
Clarence Williams III.
Yeah. And his family is
he's like super black, but all of a sudden like his white wife comes out and like the white kids.
And his son.
Reads the report on Abraham Lincoln.
This white po trash.
Until he got shot by another piece of po white trash.
Yeah.
You know who the girl is?
Jurassic Park?
Yeah, it's Ariana Richards from Jurassic Park.
So random.
He's like, would you like a bean pie? Perhaps something to drink. And it's like the bean soda.
He's all, perhaps a soda. And then you see him pop it and it says like bean soda.
He takes the drink and like spits it out. And he's like, yeah, it's an acquired taste.
I wonder what that would taste like.
Oh, can't imagine, dude. It's like the worst Jones soda flavor you ever had.
Beans. I don't even like beans in general too much.
No?
Like, they're good, but they don't really, they don't really sit well, so it's like not really worth it.
I was going to say, are you like, you don't like them? You live in a Mexican household.
No, I can do it.
Yeah.
It's just not,
okay.
It's not ideal.
Yeah. We had good food last night. You want to know what made it better? Beans and rice with it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sandra just didn't have time to cook everything, and like I didn't want it to get super late. Have her continue to cook, so I knew she was tired. It's like we just had like the potato roll tacos, and you know what? They were fucking phenomenal. I feel like we're highlighting a lot of funny stuff, but I don't want to like kick myself an hour after we get off the air and say, "Oh, I forgot about this fucking funny scene." I mean, there's the big brim hat club.
Yes,
where they have like the dwarves like
inside,
and like one of them was like the guy that used to beat Jack up when he was a kid.
Yeah, and he grabs him. What does he say? Is all you for the waist down, or you're all mine, motherfucker.
It's Tony Cox from Bad Santa. No, there's the scene where Jack and Slade are walking along, and then someone tries shooting them. There's that couple the guy's about to propose, and he gets wasted, and Jack and Slade duck behind the car. And Slade's like, "Why aren't you shooting back?" He's like, I've never been in combat. It's like, what, aren't you in the army?
He just had like this kind of big montage of him getting like his
he's got
guns
the 45 all loaded up and everything.
So where are you going, man? I'm going to war. And then they actually start firing on them from a rooftop,
he's like
across
screaming
the way.
and running around
oh
like in
my
a
god,
circle.
they shooting.
And so he's like, "Stay here, give me that gun." And he like picks up the dude's body. The girlfriend. She's like, "Oh my god, he's dead, can't you tell?" And she starts digging through his pockets to get the ring. She's like, "I waited a long time for this." And then like she puts it on. Slade's like, "Oh, at least you know he wasn't cheap." It's like a nice engagement ring. And then he like takes the gun. He picks up that poor guy's body and uses it as a shield. Runs in, fires, and then goes up the stairs. And it's Damon Wayans and Kadeem Hardison shooting. And Wayans, of course, is like yelling at Hardison. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing, man?" He's like, "Keep shooting at him." And then they go upstairs and they're like, they find out like, who paid you to kill us? And they find out it was Mr. Big. And again, it's, you can either take the stairs or the window. It's like, "Oh man." He throws him down the stairs again. And then at the very end, when he's like, "Oh, you guys can take the stairs or the window," and they're like, "Oh," he gets like so upset, he just like jumps out the window.
They say, there's two ways.
Oh yeah, there's two ways
that you can exit this building, and he's all, "Y'all can kiss my black ass."
He jumps out the window,
and they're like, "He didn't know about the stairs or the elevator."
Don't you see him at the end? Don't you see Wayans at the end, like on the gurney? He's all fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, the movie's short. It's almost 90 minutes, so it's technically a good length, but it just moves so quickly.
It does.
But it's almost like wall-to-wall jokes. And like you said, like some of them, like you might miss it if you don't know exactly like kind of what they're parroting or what they say. But if you miss it, there's another joke coming up like 3 seconds from now.
What was that called? Like the pimp, like...
Oh, the pimp of the year?
Yeah. Yeah, that little like...
the beauty contest format?
Yeah, flashback.
Yeah, because Fly Guy's in jail and Slade's trying to get information on him. He's like, "Oh, yeah, I was pimp of the year." And he has the poem.
And they give him the little sash.
And he's like strutting down the runway. Oh, and then it's the outfit that he has. It's like that outfit that he leaves jail with. And he thinks he's just so cool, and he's like doing like the strut, and everyone's just fucking laughing at him.
This is a random question, but have you ever seen Bones?
I have seen Bones.
Is it any good?
Not really.
Not really?
Not really. It's kind of a bummer because it's Ernest Dickerson that did Juice. And the great Demon Knight. Anything else? Is there anything else that we should cover for this movie? Like I said, I didn't have a whole lot of notes on it. It was basically just, this is a fucking funny movie. If you haven't seen it, check it out.
Well, what would your rating be for it? And do you have this physical?
Of course I have a physical, yes. I had like the super bare bones DVD back in the day. Mm-hmm. And now I have the Blu-ray of it, the Kino Lorber Blu-ray of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Very nice.
Yeah. Of course, it's one of my favorite comedies. I love that movie, so I did pick it up.
What rating? Out of 5?
Out of 5? 4 and a half.
Okay.
I think it's fucking hilarious. Even if you aren't super familiar with a lot of like blaxploitation movies, there's still like a ton of good jokes in it. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you gave it...
It was 4, I believe.
Yeah. The 4 like goldfish platforms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If you don't own this film, and you're listening to this and you're wondering where you can find it, it's actually streaming free on both Pluto TV right now and Tubi.
Tubi. Then Vic had said Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So
is that where you watched it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Watched it a few times in preparation for this. So yeah, if you're listening to this and you haven't yet seen the film, or maybe it's been a few years, this is getting up there in age. This film, I mean, check it out on Tubi and Pluto TV right now.
It opened wide. You said on January 11th, 1989, but actually opened very limited at the end of 1988. I was just looking to see what it had opened up against. Because it opened at number 13, but it made almost 900,000 at the box office. It opened against Twins, Rain Man. I think Rain Man was new the same week it opened in December. Twins had been out for a week or two. I didn't know that Twins was that big of a hit. Twins was number one for a couple of months.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The Naked Gun, another fucking hilarious parody movie.
Leslie
Nielsen. I watched The Naked Gun a lot too. That was a movie, especially when I was younger. I watched and half the jokes went right over my head because I was too young to get them. But my parents fucking loved it. I would watch that with them, and then just be totally lost on some of the jokes that they were laughing at.
Mm-hmm.
Like the nice beaver.
Yeah.
I didn't get that when I was watching it when I'm 8 years old. I didn't get that. Or when he says he practices safe sex and they're in the gigantic condoms. Never got that joke because I was younger. It took me years to finally get that. But another fucking hilarious parody movie. Or not necessarily a parody movie, but a funny cop movie. And Leslie Nielsen is one of the masters of parody films. Scrooged, which you and I talked about as our Christmas episode a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, which I think opened new that week. Another really fucking good movie, if you haven't seen it, with Michael Caine and Steve Martin. The late, great Glenn Headley. Hilarious movie that they had a fucking bad remake of. Speaking of bad remakes, that they made a bad remake of with Rebel Wilson and Anne Hathaway a few years ago. I don't even remember what the fuck that was called. It was bad, though. And I remember watching it because I loved Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Mm-hmm.
And then watching that and being like, what the fuck? There's remaking a movie, which is bad enough, but then there's remaking a movie badly. So I just thought that was kind of a fun little trip down memory lane. That's what it was opening against. But when it went wide in January, it made $2 million in that first wide weekend, and stuck around. It had legs at some point because it stuck around for weeks and ended up with 13 million.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when it opened wide, it had only made about 4 million, so it had another 9 to go. Someone was watching it.
Definitely somebody was watching it.
And my last bit of weird trivia, that there was a pilot?
Yes.
Called Hammer, Slammer, and Slade that was developed in December, or the pilot was aired in December of 1990, never picked up. But Bernie Casey, Jim Brown, Isaac Hayes, Steve James,
everybody returns.
Reprise their roles.
Except for
Keenan Ivory Wayans was busy with No Living Color, so he's not there, but pre-ER fame, Eric LaSalle plays the Jack Spade character, excuse me. I've never seen it. Have you ever seen it?
No.
I just saw that it had aired in syndication a handful of times, but this was the first I was hearing of it.
I wonder if it's even possible to watch that.
I wonder if you could look that up on YouTube or something. And
the pilot.
Yeah, and find out. But this movie had enough of an impact that they had a pilot created for it. Although if the Jack Spade character was in it, why did they just focus mainly on Hammer, Slammer, and Slade? And Jack Spade was kind of a peripheral character.
Maybe, yeah, he's hopping in and out, and they just wanted to focus on that kind of core team. Maybe
when we were talking LA Confidential, but Most Wanted. Remember we mentioned Most Wanted?
Yes.
Because it's Keenan Ivory Wayans.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I mentioned that Wayans wrote that movie as well.
Yeah.
Hey, man. This movie, again, a movie from your childhood and mine that we watched the hell out of. Loved. Launches in living color. Like, groundbreaking sketch comedy show. So, if anything, that's this film's legacy. And the world is better for it. Oddly enough, my parents loved In Living Color. I watched so many episodes with them.
What was Jim Carrey's character, the Fire Marshal Bill?
Fire Marshal Bill.
He's in Liar Liar, right?
Yeah.
Like for a couple seconds, I think he shows up.
Yeah, I think they reference that.
Whether by the plane.
Yeah, it was funny. Like, my parents really liked that show a lot. We would watch that all the time. It's like, they weren't offended. They got the jokes and the comedy. But my parents did introduce me to a lot of cool stuff, and they would sit down and watch a lot of other stuff, and that's how I spent a lot of the time is watching stuff with them. My mother was a big fan of horror movies, so I watched all the horror movies with her.
That's cool.
Yeah, she liked slasher stuff, man.
Yeah.
She was like, "Oh yeah, like I like blood and gut stuff." And then like if she got like a cut in real life, she would always like want to pass out. I was like, "You like that shit in the movies?" But she was like, "Yeah, that's make believe. This is real shit."
People tell me that every day. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down as usual. It's always awesome getting you in the same room.
Of course, dude. Thanks for having me, as always.
Let's hear your pitch.
For what we're doing next month?
Next
month, we are doing a great, I don't want to say underrated, because I think it was a decent hit, but also kind of propelled its director, its star, into the not mainstream, but into much bigger projects.
Mm-hmm.
Made a movie star out of its leading man. Made a very serious, director out of its director. Great crime flick from the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Very good pedigree in stars, director, writer, source material. Love this movie. Might be my favorite film from this director.
Okay.
Might be my favorite performance from this actor. And just a perfect adaptation of its source material, even if it deviates a little bit. Can't wait to talk about it. We have referenced it on this show before, and talking a couple other movies. So come back and listen to us at the end of March. Amazing soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing supporting cast. Soundtrack is one of my favorites. I had a friend that was obsessed with it in the late 90s when the movie came out, and he had a car with a decent sound system. I remember him bumping the soundtrack a lot because it's got a ton of good bass heavy tracks on it, as well as older throwback songs. But is that a good enough preview?
Yeah.
Love this movie. Can't wait to talk about it. Can't wait to rewatch it.
Yeah. So I guess we're going to...
I'm definitely going to be reading a book before we talk the show, before we do the show and talk about the film.
All right.
I'm going to reread that book.
Oh, yeah. The end of March, right?
End of March.
It's going to be a killer episode. Definitely.
Can't wait. We got good movies coming up.
All right. I guess that'll wrap up tonight then.
Any last words?
Check out some Wayans Brothers stuff if you haven't in a while, because it's fucking good.
Yeah.
Most of it is pretty solid.
Yeah. like I said, that's a comedy dynasty. They did a lot of solid work, both in sketch comedy and branching out in films and, having comedy films and dramatic work. Shout out to, have you ever seen A Low Down Dirty Shame?
No.
It's a movie that Wayans made. I think it comes out about the same time that Don't Be a Menace comes out.
Okay.
It's a pretty fun action comedy with Keenan Ivory Wayans and Jada Pinkett Smith.
Okay.
Pretty solid. It's been years since I've seen it, but I remember liking it a lot. Yeah, it's got some good action in it. And some pretty fucking funny stuff.
A Low Down Dirty Shame?
Low Down Dirty Shame, yeah.
All right, I'll check it out.
Primaries are coming up. Remember to vote in the primaries. Register if you haven't registered. You should have received the ballot in the mail if you have been registered. Make sure that you get that filled out and mailed out or in person by the 5th of March. I don't know when the show is coming out. Hopefully I'll catch people. If not, make sure that you register to vote if you aren't, because big presidential election coming up at the latter part of this year in November. Make sure you vote in that. I hate saying this. Democracy seems to be on the line, as always. So make sure that you're registered to vote. And if you are, make sure you vote in the primaries.
Yes. Do your part. I think with that being said, we're going to get out of here.
All right. Watch Dune 2. It rules.
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
Yep.
It's coming up. Go support it. Denis Villeneuve. I'm Wesley Swanson. That's Chris Pawlak. And we're signing off saying good fight.
And good night.
May I help you, sir?
How much for an order of ribs?
$2.50.
$2.50? How many ribs do I get with that?
About 5.
5? So I guess that's about 50 cents a rib, huh?
Yeah, about.
Okay, let me get one.
Right on. One order. One order ribs.
No. One rib.
One rib.
I sure am hungry.
Make that one rib to go.
One rib?
One rib. What else?
You got any soda?
$1.
Oh, come on now. Look out for a brother, man. Come on. Hey, check this out. Why don't you let me get a sip for 15 cents?
My cups cost more than 15 cents.
All right, fuck the cup. Pour it in my hand for a dime.
Look, you greasy-headed Jerry Curl Wand. Pay me and get the hell out of my store.
You got change for 100?
Look, we're gonna need an orthopedic surgeon to remove my foot from your ass.
Hammer.
No, brother, don't do it. You know the customer is always king. Hammer!